Hello, how's everybody doing today? Howling with the Wolf. It's been a couple weeks now. Obviously, it's free agency time. I'm not sure how everybody approaches free agency. Do people, you know, uh, camp around the computer waiting for a move to happen, or you have your alerts on? I don't know. But it's a hectic period. It's a fun period as a reporter. Um, and yeah, it's been an interesting couple of days for the Titans. I think this Titans team looks completely different than it did 2 days ago. So you guys know the deal. We'll just go into here and we'll just talk. We're going to talk Titans. If you guys don't know already, I've written a couple stories about what's going on. This morning, Josh Klein re-signed with the team, 4 years, $26 million with $12 million guaranteed. That was the news I broke this morning, and that is a deal that basically returns their left guard or right guard, sorry, to the lineup. So we can talk about that, and then also Daquan Jones re-signed. That was this evening actually. He got a what was it? He got a 3-year deal for 21 million and 14 million guaranteed. So two deals, solid deals, not flashy deals, not big money deals, but these are guys who are probably going to be a significant part of the Titans' future going forward. Obviously Tuesday was the big day. Tuesday evening, they went back to Patriots land. John Robinson and Mike Vrabel got him a couple of New England boys and Malcolm Butler and Deion Lewis. And I've already heard the Patriots South jokes, and they're not shying away from that. They're sort of going towards that type of team. They're chase that culture. And those were two splash moves. I think those were moves that caught the attention of people throughout the NFL. I talked to a few people. I talked to a head coach this league, and one guy texted me this morning and said, "Man, these Titans, they try to make their moves, and that's we'll see." I always caution people: free agency is a time where uh, declares winners deal last off season. So we got to be careful. I'm not a big winner and losers type of guy in free agency, but I did think the Titans made some moves to show that they're ready to win now, even with a first year head coach. So let's get into it. I'll answer some of you guys' questions and we'll go from there. Um, let's see. What's up? What's up, Jason? How you doing? What's up, Brian? How you doing, man? As always, if I miss your question, just flow it through. These are kind of flowing, so I may miss some. But Alex is asking, do you think we overpaid for Jones? I don't think so. I thought that he was going to end up making somewhere around the 6 or 7 million a year range. He ended up making around 7 million a year. I think that he's a run-stopping first defensive lineman, and that's a position that doesn't necessarily get paid well in free agency. But he got a pretty solid deal in his side of it. 7 million a year, two-thirds of the deal guaranteed. He's coming off a bicep tear. He's probably not going to be ready until the summer. I thought that was a really good deal for him. Did they overpay? I mean, everybody gets overpaid in free agency. It's very rare for you to get you a true deal to say, "Oh man, we got over on that guy." If you're hitting free agency, it's a market where everybody is going to feast, particularly the player. So I don't think they overpaid. I think they needed a guy like him, particularly because those guys are hard to find. A 320-pound defensive lineman who can take on double teams, stop the run, and get after a passer. That's something that you always want to have. And that's guys that keep your linebackers and your safeties clean. So I think that was something they had to do. And I think it was good on them for going ahead and getting it done. Let's see what we got here. Any chance of getting sued? No. Let's just leave it at that. No, that's not happening. Eric Martinez, any more free agent signings coming down the pipeline? Yeah, probably. I don't think they're done. I think they're going to make them in waves. I think those were their first wave signings. Malcolm Butler, Deion Lewis, and then signing a couple of their guys. I think that was probably okay. Those are our top priorities. And then now they're probably going to let the market settle a little bit and say, okay, what are going to be our value signings? What can we get beyond the guys we've signed. I think that they will be looking into a backup quarterback. I think someone asked about, what's next. Chad Henne is going to be visiting the Titans soon, and he's a guy that candidate-wise for quarterback. A guy who kind of fits their criteria of a guy who's been proven, has won some games in this league, and won't necessarily threaten Marcus Mariota. So it's not the most exciting backup quarterback option. It wouldn't be my first choice. But there's not a ton of options, honestly, out here. So I think you sort of got to go with what you got. And, if they can get a guy like Chad Henne, I like Matt Moore as an option. If they can get a guy like him, I thought that would be good. Geno Smith's another one that's out there. And, Blaine Gabbert. There's not a lot of names out here. My route, if I was the GM of the Titans, would be to sign one of these vet options and then draft a guy in the middle of the rounds and develop him while we have a veteran backup. So I think backup quarterbacks are a really important position, particularly when you got a guy like Marcus, who honestly hasn't played a full season yet. So we'll see what they go on that route. I think they'll look in there. I wouldn't be surprised to see them add some depth at receiver, at cornerback. At safety. Now that they released Norris Cersei, and then maybe seeing them add a little bit more in the front seven. I don't think they'll make a splash as an edge rusher. I think that's something they may address in the draft, but seeing them get some depth in that area, maybe somebody to replace Avery Williamson, maybe 2 or 3, lower mid-tier deals, throughout the rest of the way is what I sort of foresee for the rest of the period for them. Let's see. Hey, how you doing, Chad? Who's the next guy? I sort of talked about that. I think my ideal list, if I had a list of guys who are still available, I like to see them, one, get that backup quarterback thing done, whether it's Chad Henne or Matt Moore. Some guys are getting off the market, so I'd go ahead and jump on that next day or two. I'd kind of examine what the receiver market is. Has it slowed down? Some of these guys are getting ridiculous numbers. I wouldn't touch a guy if he's getting $8 million at this point. But if you can get a guy like a Mike Wallace on a 1-year deal, I think that would be something that would be intriguing and another speed option. Maybe a J-Ron Brown, the Cardinals receiver, who has some upside, but he has a lot of injuries. Maybe you take him with a 1-year incentive-based deal and get some depth in that receiving core. Or maybe you try to get something as far as a defensive lineman or a linebacker that can come in and give you some depth. So that's sort of what I would look at. I think their splash moves are just about done. I don't think they should go after any of these big names at this point. They've sort of had a solid signing period, make a couple of more deals, and then head into the draft. Lewis, you said a couple weeks ago you brought up that if the Titans spend a high pick, it might send the wrong message to Henry. What do you think he thinks about the money spent on Lewis? And next question is asking about Henry still being the starter with the Dion Lewis signing. I think that's the most interesting thing about the Dion Lewis signing. I think that it's a smart move by the Titans, diversifying their backfield. I think that Dion Lewis is a type of skill set for a back that they needed. But I am intrigued on how they work this workload. Let's be frank. These guys are grown men. They have $1 million paychecks. They have, this is the football league. So, feelings are feelings. But I know I've been told by multiple people that Derrick Henry has been waiting for this moment for like 2 years to be the starting back. So I don't think it's going to be easy. I don't think he liked the Dion Lewis signing. I haven't talked to him. I haven't talked directly to anybody but from what I know, I don't think he probably was a huge fan of that. But he's got to deal with it now. That the Titans are a team that are a playoff team trying to become a Super Bowl team. They're going to add talent to your position. And if you're afraid of competition, then this is not the league for you. And I don't think Derrick Henry's that type of dude. I know he's training every day out in Dallas, trying to get himself better. I don't think he's afraid of competition. I think he wants the chance to be the lead back. What does the backfield look like? I'm not sure, because Dion Lewis is not necessarily the type of back that he's being portrayed as. He's not a strictly pass-catching back. In fact, he was more of a running back than a passing back, just because he's small. I think a lot of people believe that maybe he's a guy who's just a third down back. He was a guy who ran in the middle and made cuts and made things move inside. So I think that he's going to get a heavy share of the carries, as well as obviously being active in the passing game as well. I think that we could, and it's too early to tell, but I think we could see a legitimate split. Maybe Derrick Henry's taking the majority of the snaps, but I think that, I would want to, let's just say this. In March, I wouldn't want to own Derrick Henry or Deion Lewis in fantasy if they're both going high. I think it's going to be fantasy to have the floor with Atlanta. We have Ted Coleman and Devontae Freeman, and they both gel well. And ideally, that's the best case scenario, and that will work out really well if that happens that way. So I'm sort of thinking that we're going to see some sort of split, whether it's a 60-40, whether it's a 50-50, whether it's a 70-30, some type of split in the backfield. It won't be a true Derrick Henry lead back and Deion Lewis when he's tired. Deion Lewis got $5 million a year. That's not backup. Just sit on the pine money. We're going to make you a focal point of the offense money. So I'm intrigued on how Derrick Henry fits. I asked John Robinson at the combine if he saw him as a 3-down back. He hesitated a little bit and then said yes. But I think we'll see this summer just how much they have confidence in Derrick Henry going forward, and how that relationship between he and Deion Lewis works out. One thing to note on Deion Lewis, he only played 16 games for the first time last season. So he's got a lot of durability question marks. And, he might not be a guy that you can lean on as a heavy back. So it's going to be in his benefit to split these carries or have Derrick Henry as the workload back. But the worry is, if you're a Titans fan, is can he survive the season? And what are your options if he gets banged up? I think the Titans probably still need to add some sort of back in the draft, maybe in the late rounds or maybe in the middle rounds. But I think they still add another back. And it could be a crowded backfield, but I think that's something they may need to do going forward. So that's sort of my long-winded take on the Derrick Henry, Deion Lewis factor. And I think we'll talk about that, and I'll probably write about that as we get further along in the offseason and see sort of the moves that are going to happen here. Hey, that's my grandma. Hey, how you doing, grandma? Let's see. Brian, I'm not opposed to that. I did feel Klein got more than I was expected. Interior line market is booming. Booming. Business is booming. Like Antonio Brown said, business is booming for everybody. I tweeted earlier, Nate Soldier got $15 million a year. Nate Soldier is a decent player, but he's not a $15 million a year tackle until somebody paid him $15 million a year. So I bet Taylor Lewan and more specifically Taylor Lewan's agent Tom Condon just said my price tag went up. So in my opinion, Titans need to get that Lewan extension done yesterday, like 2 weeks ago, because he's going to be the highest paid left tackle. And the question is, do you wait for a couple other tackles to keep rising that price range before you get him his check? Solder got $15.5 million a year. Lewan's going to need 16 a year to get it done, and that's the minimum. So he's going to get paid, and that's sort of the market that it is. Offensive linemen, there aren't a lot of offensive linemen in this market, so they're going to get paid. I thought Klein was in that range. I know a lot of people thought, oh, he's a $4 million a year deal guy, but no. I always thought he was going to be a $7 million a year guy, and he got just shy of 7. So I think they probably could have upgraded at guard from Josh Klein. He was sort of an okay guard, maybe average, slightly above average guard, but the options weren't great out there. You're either going to have to pay an injury-prone Justin Pugh or Jack Mehort probably more than you paid Klein, or you're going to have to pay a Josh Sidden who's declining and probably is going to want a good bit of money. Or what? You're not going to pay Norwell $13 million a year. So they were sort of in a position where they either give Klein the 6.5, or rely on unproven guys or injury prone guys. So I think they made the smart decision for them, and the market is the market for offensive linemen. So it's good time to be an offensive lineman, whether you're guard, tackle, or center. Um, John, great work, Cam. Surprised you had a lowest grade on Deion Lewis. Want to get your thoughts. Yeah, I talked a little bit about Deion Lewis there, and you probably asked the question before I went off. But yeah, I had a C plus on Deion Lewis grade, and I'm a little bit of a tough grader. I haven't given the Titans an A on any of their 4 signings so far, and that's just how I am as a grader. It doesn't mean that they're not doing a good job. I think that these are all really solid signings. Nothing knocked me out the ballpark, but I think they're solid signings. The reason I gave Deion Lewis a C plus is mostly what I talked about at the injury stuff. I talked to a couple people in the Patriots organization, and they were a little surprised that Deion Lewis had such a rise as far as the national perspective on him. He was a guy who was the third or fourth back in their system, sort of coming. He had a lot of injury issues. All those back, like Gillisley, James White, because they weren't sure if Deion Lewis was going to make it. And he finally played 16 games, and he's a really talented, dynamic player. And if you get that type of Deion Lewis for 16 games, then this is going to be a great deal for the Titans. But the question is, one, can he stay healthy for long enough for you to get enough out of him? And then two, can the Titans ultimately get where they're maximizing him? It's going to be up to Matt LaFleur to use him like the Patriots did. So I'm excited to see how the Titans look. I think it's another chess piece that could really help Marcus Mariota out. I don't think it's a bad move. I think it's a solid move. But I am a little bit worried about Deion Lewis' injury history, particularly for the money they gave him. I was sort of under the plan of let's draft a guy in the 3rd or 4th round and let him be the guy to offset Derrick Henry. But they decided to hand the money out, and it's not my money to say where it goes. So we'll see how Deion Lewis works. I know that he has a big chip on his shoulder. Hard-working dude. A lot of rave reviews as far as him as a hard worker and a character guy. So I think he'll fit in the locker room. It's just his health, and does the magic wear away when he leaves New England? So I hope that kind of answers your question, John. Jose, chance of Zach Brown coming back. I don't think those chances are very high. I know he's got better since he left here, but I don't think that's something that's going to happen. Maybe if the market goes down a lot compared to what he wants, but I think he's going to be aiming closer to Avery Williamson range and maybe even more. And that might be something where the Titans don't want to pay that for a linebacker, inside linebacker, off-ball linebacker. So I think that they maybe go cheap on an inside linebacker and then address it in the draft. But we'll see. It's still early. Let's see. Who's going to replace Avery? I sort of talked about that a little before. And I think that anybody who is in the draft, I think is going to be options for them. I was looking at guys like Rashaan Evans out of Alabama. There's a guy who I'm not going to try to pronounce his name because I'm probably going to mispronounce it. Out of Boise State, a linebacker who's pretty good if they want to go 1st round. And there's going to be some guys in the 3rd and 4th round too. Another guy, Malik Jefferson out of Texas, is another guy. So I think there's options in the draft. I think they'll probably find a guy who's sort of a placeholder in free agency. But I think just you see sort of the moves they're making, the amount of money they're allocating in the cornerback position. I think they're really showing what's a priority. I think the cornerback position and the defensive line position will be priorities for them over maybe an inside linebacker position. So I think obviously Wesley Woodard will be back, and they're going to count on Jayon Brown to have a bigger role. And I think they'll probably add 1 or 2 more pieces to compete, but I don't think they necessarily go and get a big splash signing to replace them. That's just my early thoughts on that. Expectations from Malcolm Butler, I think that he's going to have to be a really good player. They paid him money that makes him the 9th highest paid cornerback in the NFL. That's number 1 cornerback money. and he's going to have to show it. He was up and down last season. He sort of took a step back on the field, and that's beyond the Super Bowl stuff. He was just sort of up and down as a player. So maybe he was a little shooken up because Stephon Gilmore got the big contract coming in and not him. But I think that it's going to be really important for him to play up to his standard because his tight end secondary could be really good if he lives up to expectations. You got Malcolm Butler, Logan Ryan, and Roy Jackson. There's not too many teams that have a better trio than that. And the Titans put a lot of money and a lot of draft resources in that position. So I think they hope that's one of their strengths of their roster. I think if we look around in September and then again in January and say, what are the strengths of the Titans? I think cornerback should be one of the top 2 or 3 strengths because of what they allocated into the position. Junior, I think Jones was a good bring back. Full steam ahead to the draft. I think they make a couple more deals, but yeah, I agree. Hi, how are you doing, Amanda? Logan, EJ Manuel. I know he's a name that's an option, but I think you sort of looking in the Chad Henne, Geno Smith, Matt Moore range before you get to EJ Manuel. Ava replacement, maybe Jayon Brown. Yes, I think he's going to be a big part of that. The inside linebacker for Boise, that's what I was talking about before. I think he'll be in that range, him and Rashaan Evans, and they could be options. But right now, I think I would lean more towards an edge rusher if there's a guy on the board around that area. That's another area where the Titans need to upgrade. But they need to upgrade with youth and not necessarily just talent. I answered the inside linebacker question just there. One guy, if I had this question, just answer as I can. Just about everybody or most everybody's questions. So, yeah, Amanda, you're exactly right. Everybody is going to 2 running backs. There's very few true workhorse back systems. And I know Derrick Henry wants to be that sort of next Eddie George. It's funny, I was talking to Eddie George a couple months ago. He was like, yeah, Derrick Henry can be that league MVP that you need to give him the touches. I talked to another Titans coach who coached with the Titans last season, and he's like, he could be a Pro Bowl running back. So a lot of people have high expectations and high hopes of Derrick Henry. The problem is the new age NFL, you need to have multiple backs. You need to be able to be effective in the passing game. And I think they're just going to be more diverse in what they do. So that's going to decrease some time for Derrick Henry. I don't know that, that's necessarily a bad thing other than he won't be able to be, an MVP type candidate back. But we'll see. We'll see. It's still a lot of time to go. Injuries happen. We're not exactly sure how they're going to use these guys. And, that's why they get paid the big bucks. That's why they brought in Matt LaFleur to figure out how to get these guys and how to use their playmakers in the best way. And I think they'll figure out a good way to use both of these backs and make problems for defenses that come into Tennessee. And that's something they've been missing here. Chris Johnson, I don't think so. I think that's just where he's trying to go. I will see how it makes. Let's see. Do you think Derrick Henry? I think so. I think that I wouldn't be shocked with any day and age, but I think it's for the Titans because he doesn't really have concerns. He's never been a feature back. It would be a huge risk turning over the backfield. Deion was lead back with Derrick Henry, so I don't think that really makes sense. I think that they're going to go with the deal going forward. I know that that's what the idea is, but I'm telling you, Deion Lewis is going to be a bigger factor in this offense than people realize. It's not going to be Derrick Henry, 15 carries, and then we'll get 1 or 2 for Deion to keep him happy, and then get Derrick back in there. I think it's going to be a steady mix of both of these guys in here. Let's see. Let me try to run through a few more of these, and then I'll get out of here. As always, thanks, guys. Check out my work at ESPN.com, at Twitter, at Cameron Wolfe. Always enjoy doing these with you guys, especially around this time period. I know everybody gets crazy around free agency, and they love to see what their new team is doing. But I think this is a really good time for you guys, Titans. I know that this free agency period, they've made some moves. They're unlike some other teams. There's some teams I've talked to a couple of reporters for teams, and they're like, "Oh, we're not making any moves." But Titans are making some moves, and new uniforms next month. So I'm intrigued to see where this franchise goes. I was talking to one Titans starter last night, and he was really excited. He hopes that it helps them get more national exposure. So we'll see how that goes going forward. But as always, winning is the key to everything. So let me get into a few more of these questions, and then I'll get out of here. Chad, Spain and Byard got paid bonuses today. What was that for? Incentive-based pay? Yes, I'm actually doing a story that'll come out tomorrow that'll be kind of cool, showing some of the highest and lowest incentive-based paid guys throughout the NFL. So look out for that on ESPN.com. Spain was the highest paid incentive performance-based pay of all NFL players. And basically what that is that a lot of undrafted and late round draft pick players who end up becoming stars or getting heavy play time, it really gives them a bonus for playing, more than their salary sort of indicates they should pay. So it really is a chance to pay younger players or players who don't have huge salaries and give them a bonus. So Spain got total the performance-based pay and veteran pay was almost 500,000. For the veterans pay, for the performance pay alone, it was about 385,000. So those are all really good numbers for him. I know he got engaged earlier this year, so maybe that'll help him pay for the wedding. But yeah, that's definitely a good check for him. Kevin Byard too. He wasn't too far behind Spain and 300,000 range as far as performance pay. We got a lot of time. Who don't have huge salaries, and both of those guys don't have huge salaries yet. Poe, Zach, Preston Brown, none of those guys. Preston maybe, but I don't really see Poe. I don't really see Zach. Honey Badger, no, I know it would be a big name, but they've already allocated a lot of money in the secondary, and Tyrann Mathieu is going to want a lot of money, so I wouldn't count on that one either. Yeah, I gotta talk to Kevin and see what nickname he wants to try to bestow, because he's going to be a player here for a long time. On paper, how do you think our secondary compares to the rest of the league? I haven't looked around. I know just in the AFC South, they're going to give Jacksonville a good challenge, just on paper, because of Kevin Byard is all pro. You've got Logan Ryan, you've got Adoree Jackson, and now you're bringing in Malcolm Butler. So I think that Jacksonville was probably a top 5, top 3 secondary, and maybe the Titans are second in that division now, and maybe they're on paper, top 10, top 12 secondary on paper, but it's all on paper. We've got to see, because paper only does so much. They got to gel together. Let's see. Deion Lewis hasn't officially signed yet. Like, he hasn't got to, I don't know if he's in Nashville yet, but the team hasn't officially announced it, but they're signing him. So I definitely doubt that he's with Mariota in California with the receivers. Maybe that happens later, but it's just right now. Matthews, Tajay Sharp,